Hello and welcome everyone to Not My Darkroom once again, because I'm still moving my darkroom around in the apartment from one room to the other. It's still not set up, so I've been wanting to demonstrate to you how to develop a film with the Maya with the newly written firmware. So we are in a darkroom space of one of my friends. Let me give you a quick tour. In this area you see my two tripods for the video shoot here, and I'm invading this bit of desk space. We have Maya Black Edition here. We have 3 rows of 3X, not here but actually inside a Peterson tank. And there you see 1.5 liters of HC110 in dilution H. Over on my right there's a huge sink with lots of cool stuff around. I will show you a few of them around as we develop the film. Here we have the tabs, here we have some measures, and this whole area you can wash your film, you can dunk chemicals, you can, well, not dunk chemicals, it's bad for the environment, or you can wash some paper, photo paper in that area. Over here we have some Jobo and Peterson tanks. On the right we have 2 enlargers. Sorry for the mess, I moved them around to clear space for me. We have 2 Durst M805 color enlargers. We have 2 of them here. Over here we have a Durst CLS 501 color head, and here's the rest of the enlarger. More on that in a minute. Here we have a dry press. Sorry for the mess again, you'll see some of them in that time. And we are back to my work area. Let me check the focus very quickly. Anyway, as I was saying, today we will be developing some film using the film developer mode of Maya. And as we are not in the darkroom, Maya is not connected to the electrical mains here, so I will just use the included adapter to power it on, and I can just click one of the buttons and it will turn on. We are on firmware version 9.9.E. We are nearly there, folks. Not so much to do before shipping. And actually let me move over to the second camera now. Hello, second camera. Alright, that's looking good. Now let me adjust the other tripod so we can see more of the work area. Perfect. Now let me walk you through some of what we have done with the film developer mode. As the device boots up, same time as before, it asks you which mode you want to boot in: darkroom timer, film developer, options, and so on. Today we are going to the film developer mode. We have various settings here. Well, first of all, if you are afraid of, oh no, there's another page, there's so many settings to choose from, well, don't be afraid. You have your 6 memory positions, each with 2 channels here, same as your darkroom timer mode. And once you set them up, unlike the darkroom timer mode, you don't have to, change your countdown time every now and then, because you are supposed to develop your film with the same settings every single time. So once you have to set these settings up, and then you can just recall them using the memory buttons and just develop your film using those settings. Let me tell you what you can save and recall. The most important setting if you are developing the film is once again your base time or the development time. For me, we will be developing some Kodak Tri-X 400 today, and my usual settings for Tri-X 400 is, well, I usually rate it at exposure index 200, so I pull the film at stop, And I use HC110 in dilution H, which is 1 plus 63. And my time for those settings is 9 minutes and 45 seconds. So my film bank 1A is that. And from that, the only variable I have is actually the temperature. For 20 seconds, my development time is 9:45. But if I'm developing any higher, if I drop my thermometer in the... Let me do that actually. Here I have a digital thermometer. I'm gonna turn it on. I'm gonna measure my chemicals and it says 21.7 right now. So for 21.7 degrees Celsius, my development time is going to be shorter. How much shorter? Well, as I set the temperature here, you can notice that as I set it here, it changes my development time automatically. Right now it's 8.29 seconds, almost 8.5 minutes. That's actually the only thing I need to do. If I hit the countdown button right now, it will ask me to pour in the film, then start agitating. It will guide me through the whole process. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to take things slow, and at the end of the video I will just develop the film as I've just started the attempt. Anyway, this first setting that you can recall and change is the temperature. This is also the first setting you see upon going into the film developer menu. You can change it in 1.7 degree intervals, same for Celsius and Fahrenheit. And maybe if you want to enter a base time, not based on 20 degrees, maybe you want it based on 22 degrees. Okay, just click this button, and right now 22 degrees is your base time, and 9:45 is your base time, so 22 is your base temperature. And if this is my base time depending on this temperature, now I can adjust the temperature and it will compensate for that value. Now let me go back to 20 because that's what my base temperature is. The second time, as you may have already guessed, is the base time. You only have to set this up once. 9:45 is my base time for the Tri-X under these conditions and this developer, and I can manipulate this time in 15-second intervals. The third setting we have here is the film. 400 TX right now. You can scroll through Delta 100, 400, 2200 HP, 5 Plus, Pan series, SFX, XP2, some Foma films, and then back to Kodak. I will extend the film list. Before release. It's just a text file. I probably won't have the memory space to include every single black and white film ever made, but I will include most of them. So this is just a reminder for you. So when you click the memory button, you can see, this is my Tri-X development setting. The next one you see is the exposure index. This is again just a reminder. You don't even have to set it up. But if you're like me, I rate Tri-X for anything between ISO 200 and 1600, which is also called the exposure index, or just pulling and pushing your film. So this is my setting for exposure index 200, and I can set up another memory channel for exposure index 1600, for instance, and set up another base time there. So I can distinguish different development times, and I can easily see which one they belong to. The next one is the contrast setting. This is especially useful for large format photographers. Again, this is just a reminder. This is the zone system N+5 and -5 setting. You can just set a reminder here for if your development time is for Tri-X 400 exposed at 400, the native ISO, but if you want to increase the contrast by 2 stops, you can just set it here. That's not what we are going to do today. The next setting we have is the developer. Again, the device will come with a list of popular developers as well as a fixer. Again, this is just a reminder so you can see what your development time is. And actually, you may have noticed that as I change the film and developer settings, the base time doesn't change, because with the internal memory of an Arduino unit, I'm not able to download the whole chart of films and development times from any source like digitaltruth.com, massive dev chart, and everyone develops their film differently anyway. So I did not include in a database. Your device will come with 12 built-in film settings, and you can customize them to your liking. When we develop an SD card reader in the future, then you will be able to insert an SD card with all the development times, and then just choose a film and developer setting and it will recall the correct time for you. But right now that's not the case. The next setting we have is the dilution. Right now this is my dilution 8, which is 1 plus 63. I can adjust it in fine steps, or I can make huge crude steps. Or for instance, I can go to 1 plus 9, I can go to, let's go for back to 63. You may have noticed before this, the middle button, the enter button function was assigned as save, which would just save the changes you have made to the memory setting. But when you come to the dilution limit, it says calculate. Let's click on that. Right now it tells me dilution for 1000 milliliters, which is 1 liter, which is what I need to develop 2 rolls of 120 film. But if I increase this value to 1.5 liters, for instance, right now it tells me I need 23 milliliters of developer and 1477 milliliters of water to reach 1.5 liters. So instead of using a calculator or your phone or a chart to come up with how much developer and how much water you need, this one has a built-in calculator, which is quite practical. The next setting it saves for every single film bank is the method. Methods go from 1 up to 5, and we will talk about them later in a minute. The next one is compensate. Compensate is, well, let's say you have your base time, you have your everything, but you want to increase development time by 10% because maybe you have used your developer before, maybe you've used your fixer before, maybe you just feel like giving it an extra 10 or maybe 8-step kick. You can adjust a compensation time here. Here's a neat trick. This is my second channel. This is for my fixer, which is 5 minutes. And you already see there is a... Let me reset this first. Again, right now my fixing time is 5 minutes. And maybe if I have used my fixer once, I can increase it by an additional 10%. And this is an idea that came from one of the contributors. He said, what if it has an auto setting? What if for each time I use my fixer, we increase the development time by 10% or another percent each time? So you can just set it to auto, and auto times 0 is your initial fixed time, which is 5 minutes. The first time it develops, it will increase this time by 10%, which will give us 5.5 minutes. The second time I use my fixer, the second time I go through the old development step, it will be 2 times 10%, which is not 20%, it's actually something like 21%, I believe. The third time, first time, it just goes on, and with each step, it will increase my development time by 10%. Let me go back to my original film mode. And this is select mode to go back to the main menu, and temperature, we are back at the beginning. Each of these variables are saved for each of these memory banks, which means you can save up to 12 different recipes for your favorite films. Maybe you use channel 6 for your fixer, perhaps, and use the other 5 times 2, 1 for each channel. I don't know, you're free to do whatever you want. And we did not talk about the method. Let's talk about that right now. And if I just click on the, if I just click on the expose button once, it will take me to the preview page. The display changed a bit. Let me go back. It used to say film 1A, then all the info. If I click the expose button, now it tells me it's my 400 takes, this is just a usual reminder, and my base time. And right now it says 45 seconds first, every 60 seconds, and 15 seconds last. These are my agitation times. This is how I usually agitate my film. Well, my usual workflow for Triax 400 is I do a continuous agitation at first for 45 seconds, then I agitate once or twice every 60 seconds, every minute, then I do another continuous agitation for the last 15 minutes. So and this is my method 1. My method 2 is when I want higher contrast. This is 45 first, then it will remind me to agitate every half a minute. Then it will ask me to give a continuous agitation for the last half a minute. Method 3 is my go-to setting for stunt development. 60 seconds first, 20-minute intervals, and 60 seconds last. So let's see what else it can recall. It has a pour in, pour out setting, which is normally 5 seconds. 5 seconds is how long it will take me to pour the film in and out. If I'm using more developer right now, I'll be working with 1.5 liters. I can set this to 10 seconds, perhaps. And the include and exclude exclude setting is, should this time be included in the 945 or whatever else base time you might have. If it's excluded, it will count down the pouring time first, then it will start the countdown. If it's included, it will start right with the 945 second setting. First agitation, you can adjust this in intervals, continuous agitation time at the start. Last agitation, well, the name is self-explanatory. Intervals is 60 minutes, you can also 60 seconds, sorry, or you can click to make it minutes. So you can change any second between 0 seconds, which is stupid, and 2 minutes, 120 seconds, or you can go 0 to 120 minutes, which is useful for stunt development. Agitate for 5 seconds, an alarm will beep at the predetermined intervals, which is 1 minute, and this is how long the alarm will sound for, which is 5 seconds. It's enough. Then we are back at the method. So I believe this is all we needed to know before starting the development. And now I'm back to the main menu, and all I have to do, I'm back at the start, all I have to do is enter my temperature and just click the countdown button. It's actually pretty easy once you set it up. As I said, my film is here in this perspectively distorted tall Peterson tank, and here's my developer. The original plan was to dump the developer in, do all the development here, and use the rod to agitate, but we have misplaced every single one of those, agitation rods, the black things, in the slab. So I will be going over to the wet area. I will leave this camera with the timer so that you can see, and the wide angle camera, this one here, will be over by the wet area. One very cool trick before we finally begin developing. This is something that I've been working on since the very beginning of the project, actually. This is a DS18B20. I will look it up and put it on the screen. This is basically a thermometer. It's quite a smart device, and it's also immersible, which means I can put it inside my developer. And it comes with its own box with 2 inputs and outputs, and it works like this. I will attach a cable here. I will attach the other end of the cable here. And you can already see it just made the measurement, it says 23 degrees. As I said, this is immersible. I can just dump it in here. Okay, there was something wrong with the wiring, I just fixed it. As you see, it did just take a measurement of the chemical, and it says underneath and also on the left, on the blinking display, it says that is 21.6 degrees. So just press the focus button to stop it from blinking, and it automatically got the temperature from the sensor and compensated our development time based on the temperature readout. This means I don't even have to have a separate thermometer. I can just use this probe, dunk it in my chemical, it will automatically read the temperature and compensate and do the compensation for it. Now let me move to the wet area and finally start developing this film. Camera goes first. Chemical, and then comes my film, and here is the lid. And if you've been thinking that I'm a bit far away from perhaps the timer, let's show it. The timer is here, my wet area is here. How will I run between the timer and the developer? I have another trick for you. Here is a remote. Let me focus. Here is one of the small remotes that I've made, attached to a phone wire. So, which means I can just put it up here and use the remote to trigger, but this wire is not that long. However, I just showed you that the temperature box actually has two inputs and outputs on it. And this is actually just a pass-through switch. How it works is, we are back to this camera, and then I can just attach my button to this side. And I'm not anywhere near my timer right now. I have a remote button here, and the moment I click this button, it will actually and finally start developing. It is also a good idea if you work with wet hands. I don't really like getting my hands wet in a dark room, but if you like doing that, maybe having one of these buttons is a better idea so that you don't touch the timer with your wet hands. I will very quickly reset both of my cameras and start developing. I've just triple checked everything. It is quite stressful to work in a foreign environment, and we are ready to go. Let's start, and it says pour the developer in. Is my developer put in? I will close the lid. And as the timer asks me to, let me walk around the tripod, do a continuous agitation. Inverting the tank lightly, at the same time slowly rotating it for 45 seconds. This is a pretty important step. I will also tap the bottom so that all the air bubbles come out. And now it's asking me to wait for a whole minute. Because our first agitation is done, all we need to do is wait for a whole minute, and you can see the progress bar tracking the time. If I'm far away from the timer. Let's see if I'm here. Let me remove the camera from the tripod. Even if I can't see the numbers, I can still see the progress bar quite easily from here. So I do have an idea of how long the time I have. Right now I have 20 seconds. I will do 2 inversions after 10. Now the buzzer running for 5 seconds tells me I have to do my ignition. That's it. Now we have another 45 seconds to talk. Well, I've been wanting to talk about this big 4x5 enlarger we have here. Let me move the camera. Here you can still see the timer. When it beeps on, I will just go and agitate the tank. And let me also lower the head a bit. It is locked, and you can see the larger head here. Some of you may have seen this one. I've written a couple of articles about it. Let me agitate very quickly. I was saying, some of you may have seen this. This actually, this enlarger is missing the top section. I've just shown you it's lying on the ground behind me somewhere. This is because we have done an LED conversion to this enlarger. And we also have a custom-made small timer here. I don't really want to turn the lights off. I'm not that familiar with the place, so I will try to demonstrate how this enlarger runs. But let me first wait 10 seconds so I can perform another vegetation. We are another 50 seconds. As I've said, this is an LED enlarger. There are a couple of LEDs, red, green and blue. Well, not technically blue, they're actually almost purple, near ultraviolet. And they are attached to this custom-made timer. The timer actually has a D-sub 9 port on the back, which is actually the old prototype port, the old port that I had in the prototype. And it has 2 buttons and a dial. It is very simple. Let me show you how it operates. The red button is the focus button. If I turn it, it's quite simple. It will just turn the safe light on, vegetation time. As I was saying, it has a couple of LEDs inside, and the red LED I can just turn off and on easily. Let me at least turn this light off. I can turn the red safety light off and on easily. And while it's off, so now I can place my paper under here. I can see where the paper goes. If I click the blue button right now, it will turn all the LEDs off, and this gives you almost a white light, slightly colder than white, but it's white enough and it's pretty easy to focus. You may have noticed I don't have to deal with any safe light filters or anything like that. I don't have to slide anything. I don't have to put a red filter under there. I can just use the focus button because the red LEDs I can turn on instantaneously. Then it has a low contrast channel and a high contrast channel. Low contrast channel uses green LEDs. If If I click the expose button, it was set to 10 seconds. It will do an exposure of 10 seconds using green LEDs, which will give you a contrast grade similar to an Ilford 00 filter. And if I click here, it switches to the high contrast channel. And right now I can make an exposure using the blue with added reds so that it becomes a magenta light. And this is the high contrast channel, which is more or less equal to a grade 5 filter on the Ilford scale. Time to agitate. We have 1.5 minutes to go. Okay, as I was saying, this is an LED NRG project that we did. It does split grade at the press of a button. I can just turn the dial to adjust the countdown time. I can just press a single button to start and stop the exposure. This is a very simple timer. It has nowhere near the capabilities of what Maya has. But my friend Hakan, who runs this place, Labonix in Istanbul, he really likes this simple stuff. He doesn't like messing with all the tech and all the features. This is what he wanted to have, so I just built one for him. Time to agitate, and I'm about to agitate for the last time, so I will do a continuous agitation for 30 seconds, I believe, or was it 15? And oh no, this was the regular agitation. Now it says AGL. This is my last agitation. I will do this for 15, 30 seconds. I don't even remember, but now it's asking me to pour out. So I just remove the lid and dump all the drink over here. And very quickly my film. So this was it actually. The film is developed. I will also fix, but this is. If you ignore the 20-something minute part of the video where I talked about how to set it up, it is actually quite easy. You just have to set the whole device up once, and after you've set the device, all it takes is a simple click on the countdown button, and you just follow along all the instructions.